Kevin Gordon here from Autosavant.com with your June 8th edition of the Afternoon Commute. Coming to you today from the 2012 Lexus GS 350 all-wheel drive. We just turned in the Volkswagen Passat, which we had to review the Fender audio system in, and we will do that but in writing because unfortunately due to copyright laws it's a little difficult to do stereo reviews on video. So stay tuned for that. So what is going on out there? Well, a lot of the news is about new models and rumors and speculation about what's happening in the near future. Starting with allpar.com is reporting, and then Autoblog picked up the fact that there's a few test mule Ram truck, Dodge Rams, now Ram truck, 1500s running around with the 3-liter V6 diesel that's expected to show up in the Grand Cherokee in the near future in the US. It's the motor that's already available overseas. So will we see that in the Ram? I think there's a possibility. I think it's all going to come down to how inexpensively they can stick that into the truck. If there's a huge premium for it, I don't know if we'll ever see it, but again, we shall see. I think the other factor there is the price of diesel fuel going into the future. Next up for today, and also on the future possibility front, there's spy pictures floating around of the new Porsche 911 with a real Targa roof. A Targa roof where you can actually take off the tops like they used to be on the 911s. This would, of course, replace the Targa that had the giant sliding sunroof that slid into the back window of the hatch area of the 911. That does seem to be a pretty logical thing. The big question, of course, is going to be, can they find a place to stick the Targa roof in the car somewhere, or will you have to take it off and leave it at home? And expect to see that at one of the early auto shows, next year's auto shows, even LA at the end of the year. And here's a fun one. The Veloster Turbo is officially been announced as far as its pricing goes. It will be $22,000, $22,725, which is, I think, $4,500 more than the base model. The reason why I think it's interesting is last week, the CEO of Hyundai was reported by Inside Line saying that the Veloster Turbo will be $1,600 more than the base Veloster. And that would have put it under $20,000. Later that day, The Truth About Cars picked up that story. And then even later that day, John Kralik, and I may be getting that last name wrong, the CEO of Hyundai, came out to say that it would be $1,600 more through Twitter. He did this, $1,600 more than the comparably equipped base Veloster. So what does all of that mean? It means that the Veloster Turbo at almost $23,000 is still pretty good value for money. It slots in well with the other cars in its class. I think it's all going to come down to driving, but I think the lesson there, as usual, is until something's official, don't go running with the news until it's confirmed. And exciting news if it's true. So Car and Driver got spy photos of what appears to be a 2015 Mustang mule running around. The proportions seem to be a little different, nothing too surprising or shocking, but they get a good picture of the back side of it, and there's clearly an independent suspension underneath it. So as we get closer, it should be interesting to see if it becomes official that the new Mustang's going to have it. It does seem like it fits, considering they're saying that's going to be a world platform, and that would fit better with some of their cars overseas. we're looking forward to finding out more as it gets closer to the 2013 auto show circuit and, you know, into 2014 on that one. So the whole thing about the Veloster Turbo, that was happening while we were at the Cooper Ride and Drive event down in San Antonio, Texas, at Cooper Tires test facility down there, which is really quite impressive. I mean, it's hotter than hell in San Antonio, but it was really, really good and interesting to see how they go through their process and to get to compare their tires to some of the peers in their industry. Well, as we were down there, actually the day we arrived, Ford officially released the pictures of the 2013 Ford F-150, and it was launched in Texas. You know, Texans are very proud of the fact that 1 in 5 pickup trucks that are sold in the United States are sold in Texas. So Texas is a big truck market. The 2013 looks a little bit different. Not much has changed other than the look to make it a little bit more, you know, in accordance with the family. The other major change is with the technology, so it does get My Ford Touch, and I say that carefully because I always get it wrong. I call it My Touch Ford. And it gets, I believe, the button interface that we've reviewed in the Super Duty. So take a look at that video if you're interested in getting a sneak peek at what the new nav and infotainment system is going to look like in the upcoming F-150. Also on the rumor mill, I guess you could call it, although it seems to be pretty confirmed at this point, considering Sergio, the CEO of Chrysler, fundamentally has announced it. The 2014 model year, the Chrysler Town Country is going to go away. It will be no more, which is just shocking to me. They're supposedly going to replace it with a crossover that should be more like the Pacifica and R-Class Mercedes was, but given the lack of success of those two models, it seems like a really surprising decision. You know, in my mind, if you're going to kill the Town & Country, you might as well call the 300 a Dodge and just kill Chrysler. But I suppose these people are smarter than I am. If you really want a real Town & Country by Chrysler, you've got this year and next year to pick one up, and then supposedly it's gone. And finally, for the weekend commute, and I call it the weekend commute because it's Friday afternoon and I'm considering it the weekend, 2 supercars in the news. The McLaren MP4-12C is getting a boost in power for the 2013 model year. It also gets a little bit of updates to some other tuning in it and computer programming and like the transmission and so on and so forth. So for all of you out there that are disappointed considering the fact that you bought a 2012, I have good news. You can just take yours back to McLaren and they will reprogram it and it'll make the power that the 2013s do. Also in news about cars dying, the Mercedes-Benz SLS AMG is dead. Despite the fact it was a huge sales success, it's gone forever. It's been replaced by the SLS AMG GT. Why they had to rename it, who knows? It seems like they're doing it so they can put GT badges on it, and people that buy them will have a visual indicator as to the fact that you have the newer model instead of the older one. Other changes there you get for this year include a 20 bump in horsepower from the naturally aspirated engine and some revised suspension tuning with one of those systems that has more driver tunability built into the suspension. So that's it for the weekly commute here. The afternoon commute, the weekend commute, the weekly commute, whatever you'd like to call it. I'm Kevin Gordon, coming to you from the Lexus GS350, and quickly before we close, I can say this thing is quite nice. You know, the setup of it was good, phone and everything was easy. I'll do a full sort of 3-piece review on this as far as the car and the infotainment and the stereo, walk through all the pieces. We'll have it for 9 or 10 days, which is good, and we have a bit of a road trip planned in it. So looking forward to it, and I will talk to you guys next week.